Two groups meet at the edge of a river, somewhere in the Rift Valley, roughly 70,000 years ago. Neither one knows the other. There's no shared language yet, no treaty, nothing on paper because paper doesn't exist. One option is violence, and for a long time, that's exactly what we assumed happened by default. But instead, someone puts down a spear. Someone else offers a piece of meat that isn't strictly necessary to give away. A few hours later, there's laughter around a fire that didn't exist that morning. Two strangers just became something else entirely. How does that actually happen, with nothing but instinct to guide it? This video is about friendship, not romance, not family, but the strange, voluntary bond between people who owe each other nothing by blood or obligation. It's easy to assume friendship is a modern luxury, something that shows up once survival's no longer a daily emergency. The evidence says otherwise. Alliance building between unrelated individuals appears to be ancient, deliberate, and remarkably calculated, even when it looks, on the surface, like pure warmth. Understanding how early humans built these bonds tells us something about why friendship still works the way it does now, and why some of the instincts behind it are frankly a little more transactional than we'd like to admit. Start with gift giving, because it's one of the clearest and most well-documented mechanisms. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, a population still living a foraging lifestyle, studied extensively by anthropologists including Kristen Hawkes and Frank Marlowe. Sharing meat beyond one's immediate family is common, even when it isn't strictly required for survival. The catch is that this generosity isn't random. It tends to flow towards specific individuals over time, building what researchers call reciprocal exchange relationships, essentially a running social ledger nobody writes down, but everybody remembers. Give consistently to someone, and you've built a person who owes you, softly, indefinitely. That's not cynicism. That's just how trust gets tested before anyone's willing to call it friendship. Then there's proximity, which sounds almost too simple to matter, except it clearly does. Psychologist Robert Zajonk's research on the mere exposure effect found that repeated contact with someone, even without any deep interaction, measurably increases how much people like them. Ancient camps, by necessity, clustered people together night after night around the same fires, the same water sources, the same narrow paths through dangerous terrain. You didn't choose your neighbors from an infinite pool of options the way a modern city or app allows. You built bonds with whoever kept showing up, because whoever kept showing up was, statistically, who you were going to need eventually. Consider it friendship by attrition, less romantic than it sounds, considerably more effective than we tend to give it credit for. Shared vulnerability did an enormous amount of the remaining work, and this part is almost counterintuitive. Anthropologists studying rites of passage, scarification rituals, joint hunting expeditions, initiation ceremonies documented across cultures from sub-Saharan Africa to the Arctic have noted that shared hardship consistently produces faster, deeper bonding than shared comfort ever does. There's a reason military units and sports teams still lean on this same principle. Struggling through something painful alongside another person seems to signal, at a gut level, that this individual can be trusted under pressure, which, for early humans facing predators, famine, and rival groups, was essentially the only trait actually worth screening for. Comfort tells you almost nothing. Adversity tells you everything. Underneath all three of these mechanisms sits something a bit less flattering: strategy. Evolutionary psychologists, including Robin Dunbar, have argued that human friendship likely evolved as a form of alliance building, insurance against a world with no police, no contracts, no institutions to fall back on when things went wrong. A friend was someone who'd defend you, feed you during a bad season, and vouch for you to others. Warmth mattered, sure, but warmth wasn't the whole engine. It was often riding on top of a much colder calculation about who was actually reliable when it counted. None of this means ancient friendships were cold or purely transactional. That would oversimplify things just as badly in the other direction. The same research on hunter-gatherer societies documents genuine affection, humor, and grief at a friend's death that looks, in every meaningful way, identical to what we'd recognize today. Strategy and sincerity clearly coexisted, the same way they still do now. Nobody consciously calculates the utility of a close friend while also missing them terribly when they're gone. Reducing the whole phenomenon to pure evolutionary self-interest misses half the picture, and honestly, it's probably the less interesting half anyway. So what actually built friendship among early humans? A layered mix. Generosity that quietly kept score, repeated contact that built familiarity nobody consciously chose, and shared hardship that revealed exactly who could be trusted when things fell apart. Those two groups at the riverbank weren't just being nice to each other. They were running an ancient, largely unconscious audit of reliability, one shared meal and one dangerous moment at a time. And somewhere in that process, real affection took root anyway. Which might be worth remembering next time a friendship forms in an unglamorous way. A shared bad commute, a rough project at work, a difficult year survived side by side. That's not a lesser origin story. That might be the oldest one there is. If you're into these kinds of dives into human behavior, subscribe to Before 1000. A new one lands every week.